Hello, future doctors. Greetings. In this presentation, we are going to discuss on how to lead people. Okay? So, when you become a doctor, when you become a physician later on, you will be the team leader in the hospital, in the area, in the medical setting, or wherever you are located in your practice. You will lead people. Okay? The team, the medical team will look up to you. Okay? They will ask you for guidance. Okay? So as a team leader, you must develop your skill, your knowledge, and your attitude on how to work harmoniously with your team member in order for you to effectively render, okay, to effectively and efficiently work together with the medical team, and for you to develop the proper skill on how to lead people. So let's begin. What is leadership? What does it mean to lead? What is the meaning of the word lead? According to Longman New Universal Dictionary, as you can see at the right side, okay, that's the image of the book. It means to guide on a way by going in advance. Okay? The word lead means guidance, to guide. To guide step by step in order for someone or in order for yourself to advance. It's safe to say that leading involves taking someone on a journey from their current position to somewhere else. Okay? So when you lead, the word lead, it means you guide someone, whether it is a member, a certain person, or even yourself, in order to progress, in order to move, in order to advance, okay? In order to bring that someone or yourself from one position to another. The journey can be physical and or psychological. In physical, for example, Moses led the Israelites out of Egypt. In the psychological, for example, a leader turns around the attitudes of a group of workers. So, whichever it is, it involves change. When you lead, there is change because you bring a certain person, yourself, the member of the community, from one place to another. Okay? There is progress. There is change. There is movement. You can't be a leader unless you lead change of some kind. That's what leaders do. They change things. As a leader, you advocate change, okay? Because change is the only thing that never change. So as a leader, you must not be afraid of change. You must advocate change and guide your members or yourself to progress. Now, all these principles leads to a question. How does the leader bring about change? First, they can't do it on their own. They need the help of others. Okay? As a leader, no man is an island. You must work harmoniously with your members or the team because you need them in order for you to effectively and efficiently render the services necessary in order to achieve the goals. This turns leadership into a process which involves influencing others to work towards the achievement of your aims and objectives. Okay? So, a leader must be a good influence to its members. Without influence, it would render nugatory or it would render useless the leadership of a certain person. Leadership is not about power or force. It's about influence. You don't want an army of conscripts as followers. You want an army of volunteers. Okay? In order to effectively, in order to efficiently, okay, make changes or achieve a goal, a leader must be an influencer. Okay? In order to encourage, in order to motivate its member to achieve the goal. Now, it begs a question. What does it mean to lead? What are the characteristics of a leader? The characteristic that you must exhibit at all times if you are to convince people that you are worthy, okay, to be followed, that is self-confidence. As a leader, you must show that you are strong, that you are confident, that you are motivated to lead them, to bring them from one place to another, to advance, to progress. It's essential that you always appear self-confident and optimistic, especially when you're terrified. Of course, all of us are only human. Okay? We feel pain, we feel sorrow, especially during difficult times. But as a leader, you must be optimistic. You must show strength. You must show confidence because the people, the members, the member in the community will always look up to you for guidance because in their mind, you are the leader. So as a leader, you must show courage. You must unite the members, unite the people, and lead them to progress, to achieving the goals. Question. If you lack faith in your own abilities or the leadership approach that you adopt, why should anyone place their trust in you? More often than not, leadership is based on trust and confidence. Your staff, your followers, the members of the community, the members of the team has high regard for you as a leader because they will seek your guidance. They will seek your decision in order for them to move, in order for them to be guided, in order for them to achieve certain goals. How you feel is not important. It's how you are perceived by your staff or followers that matters. Okay? Many great leaders have been racked with nerves and self-doubt. Indeed, it's probably only the mad and the megalomaniacs who are free from doubt. Okay? Good leaders face their fears and triumph over them. As a leader, do not fear. Do not be afraid to face difficult times. It's part and parcel of the experience. You must always have a positive view. You must always move forward because your members will trust you. They will put everything on the line for you in order for them to be brought from one place to another, okay, to progress, to achieving the goal. The members, the team will look up to you as a leader. Now, let's go to the different theories of leadership. Okay, this discussion is supplemental to our previous discussion about leadership styles, okay, and leadership theories. Now, let's discuss about the trait theory. A trait is what we call a characteristic way in which an individual perceives, feels, believes, or acts. Three-trait theory. In 1936, psychologist Gordon Allport, okay, the picture is at the right side of the slide, found that one English language dictionary alone contained more than 4,000 words describing different personality traits into three levels. First, cardinal traits. Traits that dominate an individual's whole life, often to the point that the person becomes known specifically for these traits. For example, if you are a Freudian, a narcissistic, you are a Don Juan, or Christ-like. Okay? These are your main trait as a person. People perceive you based on this trait. If you are a good person, if you are a bad person, if you are a Republican, if you are a Democrat, and so on and so forth. And then the central traits. These are the general characteristics that form the basic foundations of personality. Terms such as intelligent, honest, shy, and anxious are considered central traits. Okay? These are your characteristic. Okay? If you are smart, if you are a good person, an honest person, a confident person, a shy type, and so on and so forth. And lastly is the secondary traits. These are the traits that are sometimes related to attitudes or preferences and often appear only in certain situations or under specific circumstances. Some examples would be getting anxious when speaking to a group or impatient while waiting in line. So these are sometimes what you call situational characteristics, okay? They arise during a specific situation. For example, if there's a person, a big person, and then you feel afraid, okay? Something like that. Another theory on how to lead people is the 16 personality factory theory, founded by Raymond Cattell, another trait theorist. Okay, in this theory, Mr. Cattell reduced the theory of Mr. Allport, okay, from 4,000 down to 16 by means of a statistical technique called factory analysis. So what are these 16 personality factor theory? First is the emotional or easily upset versus calm or stable. Next is intelligent versus the unintelligent. Third, suspicious versus trusting. Fourth, reserved or unfriendly versus outgoing or friendly. Fifth, assertive or dominant versus not assertive and humble. Sixth, sober or serious versus happy-go-lucky. 7, conscientious or doing what is right. versus expedient, okay, in order to do things faster. Next is shy or timid versus venturesome. Another is tender-minded versus tough-minded. Next, practical versus imaginative. 11th, shrewd versus forthright. Next, self-assured or placid versus apprehensive. 13, conservative versus experimenting. 14, group-oriented versus self-sufficient. Next, undisciplined versus self-disciplined. And then lastly, relaxed versus tense or driven. So these are the 16 personality factory theory founded by the theorist Raymond Cattell. Now, let's go to another theory, the universal trait theory. British psychologist Hans Eysenck developed a model of personality based upon just 3 universal traits were sufficient to describe human personality. Differences between Cattell and Eysenck emerge due to preference for different forms of factor analysis, with Cattell using oblique, Eysenck orthogonal rotation to analyze the factors that emerge when personality questionnaires were subjected to statistical analysis. Okay? So the theory of Hans versus Cattell were contrasted. Even though they supplement each other, they were differentiate through the analysis of the questionnaires of the subjects, okay, by use of statistical analysis. Under the universal trait theory by Hans, he founded the following. First, introversion or extraversion. Introversion involves directing attention on inner experiences, while extraversion relates to focusing attention outward on the other people and the environment. Okay? So this is the concept of introvert and extrovert. So a person high in introversion might be quiet and reserved, while an individual high in extraversion might be sociable and outgoing. Another concept is the neuroticism or emotional stability. This dimension of Eysenck's trait theory is related to moodiness versus even-temperedness. Neuroticism refers to an individual's tendency to become upset or emotional, while stability refers to the tendency to remain emotionally constant or calm. Another is psychoticism. Later, after studying individuals suffering from mental illness, Eysenck added a personality dimension he called psychoticism to his trait theory. Individuals who are high on this trait tend to have difficulty dealing with reality and may be antisocial, hostile, non-empathetic, and manipulative. So, from the root word psycho or psychotic. The Big Five, okay? Under the concept of the Big Five, it denotes conscientiousness, agreeableness, emotional stability, openness to experience, and extraversion. Okay? By conscientiousness, it contemplates dependability, grit, organization, persistence, planning, punctuality, and responsibility. Under agreeableness, it denotes collaboration, collegiality, generosity, honesty, integrity, kindness, and trustworthiness. Under emotional stability, it connotes confidence, coping with stress, moderation, resilience, self-esteem, self-consciousness, self-regulation. And then, under openness to experience, it contemplates curiosity, creativity, global awareness, growth mindset, imagination, innovation, and tolerance. And lastly, under extraversion, it contemplates assertiveness, cheerfulness, communication, optimism, leadership, liveliness, and sociability. So these are the characteristics contemplated in the Big Five. Now, let's discuss further the concept of the Big Five model. So, under the Big Five model, the personality types are openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Okay? Under the concept of openness, the characteristic, there is appreciation for novelty or variety in experiences, diversity in interest. Okay? As the leader, as the person, he is not afraid to venture out, okay, to diversify the experience, to embrace new experiences. Second is conscientiousness. The person is organized, consistent, cautious, and dutiful, but less creative. Okay? So, the person answers the call of duty. Okay? Next is extraversion. Appreciation for environments with higher levels of stimulation, high energy, more activity, and social life. Because this type of person or leader is an extrovert. Okay? He is sociable. Next is agreeableness. The person or leader is cooperative, adaptable, submissive, tolerant, generous, modest, and trusting. And lastly is neuroticism. High susceptibility to anger, frustration, insecurity, pessimism, anxiety, and negative emotions. Okay? Sometimes these are characteristic of a type A personality. Now, let's go to the criticisms of trait theories. First, being purely descriptive and offering little explanation of the underlying causes of personality. Okay? So, in trait theory, the concept does not dig deeper, okay, to the personality of a leader. And then, lead some people to accept oversimplified classification. So, more on description, more on concepts, but does not delve into deeper concept of personality or motivation. And then, underestimate the effect of specific situations on people's behavior. Okay? The situation of the people is neglected on how they respond to such situation. And then lastly, poor predictors of behavior. So these are the criticisms of trait theories. Now, let's go to another theory on how to lead people, the Theory 12, or the Michigan and Ohio studies for basic style theory. So, both are behavioral leadership theory. Okay? The Michigan theory and the Ohio theory. So, under the Ohio State Studies, in 1945, the Bureau of Business Research at Ohio State University initiated a series of studies on leadership. The Ohio State studies sought to identify independent dimensions of leadership behavior. Okay? So, the study in the Ohio State focuses on the leadership behavior. First, initiating structure, and then the second is the consideration. So, this basic theory argued that employee and task orientation did not reside on a single continuum, but on two separate continua, each of which ran from low to high. And then that mean it was possible for a leader to have one of four leadership styles. So what are these styles? First, a high concern for staff and task. Second, a high concern for staff and a low concern for task. Third, a high concern for both staff and task. And then lastly, a high concern for staff and a high concern for task. Now, in contrast with the Michigan studies, in 1940s, the University of Michigan suggested that leadership behavior could be explained as either person or task-oriented. Okay? The purpose of these studies was to identify styles of leadership behavior that results in higher performance and satisfaction of a group. Okay, whether it's employee-oriented or production-oriented. So that's the focus of the Michigan study. So, how to apply the Michigan studies? First, improve your relationships with staff by taking time to get to know them. Next, involve staff in discussions. Another scenario, start by recognizing that you are not the staff's friend, counselor, or shrink. You are their manager. And then, set a small number to key targets and deadline for all the staff. Of course, if you are manager, you must, as a manager, you represent the company. So, you must be not just staff-oriented, but also production or progress-oriented. Next, aim to act in a fair, friendly, and supportive manner at all times. But when you have to demand maximum effort from staff and they know when a job is important. And then lastly, if you have no interest in the task or your staff get out of management, you always take control. Now, let's go to another leadership theory, the Blake and Newton's leadership grid. Okay? So, this discussion is just a reiteration of our previous discussion on leadership styles. Okay? These are just additional concepts in order to reinforce your knowledge. Robert Blake and Jane Newton built up a leadership grid that identifies how much concern the leader has for getting the job done and for their staff. The managerial or leadership grid is used to help managers analyze their own leadership styles through a technique known as grid training. Okay? So, this theory utilizes a grid in order to determine the effectiveness of a leader. The model originally identified 5 different leadership styles based on, first, task-centered. So, the degree to which a leader emphasizes organizational efficiency and high productivity when deciding how best to accomplish a task. Another is person-centered, the degree to which a leader considers the needs of team members, their interests, and areas of personal development when deciding how best to accomplish a task. So, definition of the terms used in the grid of Blake and Mouton. Country club management, high concern for people and a low concern for production. Managers using this style pay much attention to the security and comfort of the employees in hopes that this will increase performance. Next is team management. High concern is paid both to people and production. Managers using this style encourage teamwork and commitment among employees. Next is the middle of the road management. Concern for both people and production. Managers achieve suitable performance through compromise. Next is the impoverished management. Low concern for both people and production. Managers use this style to preserve job and job seniority. And lastly, task compliance management. High concern for production and a low concern for people. Managers using this style pressures employees through rules and punishment to achieve goals. Okay? So these are just matters of reading, guys. If you have questions, do not hesitate to contact me. So this is the grid of Blake and Mouton's. This is the managerial grid, okay? Just examine this grid. We have already discussed this concept in our previous discussions. So what is essential is the performance, okay? And the different terms. For example, country club manager, concerns of high people, low task, and so on and so forth. Okay, we have already discussed this. If you have any concerns or any questions, feel free to contact me. Okay, you just examine this managerial grid. Now, Blake and Mouton suggest that team management should be used by all the leaders. A manager or leader should complete the Blake and Mouton's leadership questionnaire and identify his or her own style. So there are already set of questions that will determine the leadership style of a person based on his or her answer. If you fall under a team manager, that is good, but you still have to be committed and do the job carefully. If you are a country club manager, then you must eventually place greater emphasis on the task completion, okay? If you are a country club manager. If you are a middle of the road manager, there is little merit, but it may be a good strategy for longevity. So only you can decide if this is an acceptable approach in your organization. If you are a task manager, then you should aim to achieve balance between a concern for work and for people. If you are an impoverished manager, then either you are in the wrong organization or you need to change careers. A single style will not work in every situation, so one should remain flexible and adapt management style to changing circumstances. Okay? So as a leader, as a manager, you must combine different style because there is no single approach that is effective. Sometimes it is based on situation, sometimes it is based on traits, okay? Sometimes it is based on chances. and so on and so forth. However, this model ignores the importance of internal and external limits, which matter, and scenarios. Okay? The scenarios, the events, the happenings affects how a leadership style is utilized. Now, let us go to another concept of leadership style, the Hershey and Blanchard situational leadership theory. Okay? This is an important theory because it is crowned as king for in contrast with other theorists. Okay? So, a leadership style based on the situation. Now, a little background. This theory is developed by Ken Blanchard and Paul Hersey. This theory explains how to match the leadership style to the situation and readiness of the group members. It is widely used by the trainers and popular with managers because it provides clear advice on how to lead staff. It is classified according to the relative amount of task and relationship behavior the leader engages in. Okay? So, it depends upon the situation and how the leader reacts. As a leader, one needs to provide direction and support when dealing with a member or a staff. Now, under the Hershey and Blanchard's theory, the four leadership styles are the following. First, coaching. The leader provides high levels of both direction and support. The leader provides followers with supportive instructions, okay? He advises, he gives instructions, but is also supportive to the members' needs, okay? If the member or the staff or the team needs something, the leader is open and approachable. Next is directing. The leader provides high levels of direction but low levels of support. Okay? The leader is like the director of the organization. The leader defines the roles needed to do the job and tells the followers what, where, how, and when to do the task or job. Next is supporting. The leader provides high levels of support but low levels of direction. The leader and followers share in decisions about how best to complete a high quality job. Lastly is delegating. The leader provides low levels of support and low levels of direction. Okay? The task, the function is being delegated. The leader provides little specific, close direction or personal support to the followers. Okay? He lets the followers or the members do the job or task. So again, here is the diagram of Hershey and Blanchard's model. Okay, you just reviewed this. We have discussed this in our previous presentation. Okay, what is important is you are familiar with the different concepts of this theory. Like if the leader is based on the theory of participating, he shares ideas, okay? If delegating, turn over decisions. If telling, give instructions, and so on and so forth. You just review this diagram. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Do not be shy, okay? We will discuss it so that you will understand the underlying concept of this principle. The general principle of this model: the manager must choose the leadership style as it relates to the maturity of its followers. If the follower maturity is high, the model suggests the leader provide minimal guidance. Okay? So if the followers has these technical skills, okay, the manager needs only a little guidance to its members. By contrast, if follower maturity is low, the manager may need to provide explicit directions and supervise work closely in order to ensure the group has clarity on their goals and how they are expected to achieve them. So, to use the situational theory effectively, the leader needs to know and understand the member. By using this theory, a manager can quickly evaluate a situation and make decisions as he or she sees it, but it may also put too much responsibility to the manager. However, this model may prioritize relationship and task as opposed to a company's long-term goals. Okay? So these are just matters of reading, guys. If you have questions, do not hesitate to contact me. Okay, let's move on to another leadership theory or style on how to lead people. So in this theory, this is the transactional leadership theory of Burns. So, what are the types of leadership theories as defined by Burns in 1978? First is the transactional. It focuses on the exchanges that occur between leaders and their followers. Next is the transformational process of engaging with others to create a connection that increases motivation and morality in both the leader and the follower. Next is the pseudo-transformational, focuses on the leader's own interest rather than the interest of his or her followers. Now, let's define transactional leadership. What is transactional leadership? Transactional leadership theory is based on the idea that managers give employees something they want in exchange for getting something they want. James McGregor Burns argued that both transactional and transformational leaders must be moral and have a higher purpose in his 1978 book called Leader. In doing so, he described a process that has been going on between leaders and followers, managers and staff, and parents and children since Adam was lad in short pants. So, under this concept, constructive transactions occur when the leader offers inducements to the followers to accompany with their request. And then corrective or coercive transactions occur when the leader threatens the follower if they refuse to cooperate or if they fail to stop acting in a certain way. So, how to use this leadership style? First, confirm the limits of your power or authority as a leader. And then, find out what makes your staff tick or work. Next, leaders should start with constructive transactions. And then leaders set goals for their teams. If employees perform well and poorly, their leaders reward and punish them respectively. Now, let's go to another theory. House's charismatic leadership theory. Charismatic leadership has been around for a long time, but it was Robert House who established it in the popular imagination during the 1970s. Charismatic leadership act as role models for their followers. Relationship between leader and followers is that people become part of collective identity with a common aim and purpose. Remember, charisma is in the eye of the beholder. You don't have to possess it for others to think you have it. Okay? It's like the saying that goes, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Okay? So, charisma is the same with beauty. If you are a leader, the members, the team, will perceive you as charismatic or beautiful. In addition to House's charismatic leadership theory, leaders exhibit confidence in their followers to overcome obstacles and achieve great things. Leaders should increase consciously, build up the self-belief and competence of the followers. Act as a role model for your staff. Display your beliefs, principles, and values through your actions. Demonstrate good humor, honesty, fairness, punctuality, hard work, and loyalty to your staff. Follow the golden rule and treat others as you would like to be treated. Do this and you will win the hearts and minds and be trusted by staff, colleagues, and senior management. Now, the following persons are the transformational theorists: James Burns and Bernard Bass. Okay? So, Burns, architect of transformational leadership. He is also a presidential biographer and a scholar at Burns Academy of Leadership. Okay? Bernard Bass, transformational and transactional leadership model. And then full range model and multi-factor leadership questionnaire. Now, let's discuss further on the personality involved in this theory. James McGregor Burns specializes in the study of leadership in American political life. So, this is the picture of James McGregor Burns at the left side of this presentation. His book, Leadership, okay, was created 1978, is still considered by many the seminal work in the field of leadership studies. Okay, so he is a leading authority in the study of leadership. So that's the book at the side. In this book, he introduced the concept of transactional and transformational leadership. According to James McGregor Burns, he said, and I quote, "I define leadership as leaders inducing followers to act for certain goals that represents the values and motivations, the wants and needs, the aspirations and expectations of both leaders and followers. Leadership must be aligned with a collective purpose, and effective leaders must be judged by their ability to make social changes." Okay? So at the start of this presentation, we have discussed that a leader must be an advocate of change. Under Burns' ideas, he opined that transformational leadership goes beyond transactional leadership. Transformational leadership occurs when one or more persons engage with others in such a way that leaders and followers raise one another to higher levels of motivation and morality. Now, let's go to another author of leadership style, Bernard Bass, the Transformational Leadership Theory. Okay? Bass, 1985, new version of Transformational Leadership. He focuses more attention to follower needs, transactional and transformational leadership as a single continuum. Transformational leaders motivates followers to do more than expected by raising followers' levels of consciousness, getting followers to transcend their own self-interest, and then moving followers to address high-level needs. So, it begs the question, what is transformational leadership? Under transformational leadership, it connotes people will follow a person who inspires them. A person with vision and passion can achieve great things. The way to get things done is by injecting enthusiasm and energy. So the transformational and transactional leadership model factors. So under the transformational leadership, factor 1 is idealized influence or charisma. And then factor 2, inspirational motivation. Factor 3, intellectual stimulation. And then factor 4, individualized consideration. And then under transactional leadership, factor 5, contingent reward or constructive transactions. Factor 6, management by exception active and passive corrective transactions. And then the laissez-faire leadership, the factor 7, laissez-faire or non-transactional. So how does the transformational approach works? First, general steps followed by transformational leaders. Empower followers and nurture them in change. Become strong models for their followers. Create a vision for the organization. Act as a change agent for new direction within organizations. And then become social architects. Transformational leadership applications. There is not a set of assumptions about leaders should act in a particular situation, okay? So it depends upon the situation. There is no single approach that is similar to all. It provides a general way of thinking. It can be taught to individuals at all levels. It can be used in recruitment, selection, and promotion, and training and development. It can be used in improving team development, decision-making groups, quality initiatives, and reorganization. Okay? So that's the extent of the application of transformational leadership. So in contrast, how to apply the Big Five and transformational leadership. Okay? How are they integrated? At first glance, extraversion, positively related to transformational leadership. Okay? And then agreeableness, positively related to transformational leadership. Again. And then consciousness, no hypothesis. And then neuroticism, negatively related to transformational leadership. And then openness to experience, positively related to transformational leadership. Okay? That is how they contrast with each other. Now, another authority for transformational leadership theory are Bennis and Nanus. Okay? Used to develop a vision for your organization based on values and beliefs. Okay? So that's the background of their theory. Following interviews with a range of leaders, Warren Bennis and Nanus identified 4 strategies that leaders should use when trying to transform their organization. So as you can see below, this is the book of Warren Bennis and Nanus, which is entitled Leaders, okay? Strategies for Taking Charge. So according to their book, there are 4 strategies. Strategy number 1, develop a clear and understandable vision for the organization. Next strategy, act as social architects for the organization by changing the organizational culture. Strategy number 3, create trust throughout the organization by making explicit their values and views. And then lastly, strategy number 4, identify their own strengths and weaknesses and encourage their followers to do the same. Okay? These are just matters of reading, guys. But if you have questions, feel free to contact me. So, according to the research of Bennis and Nanus, they opined that leaders had a clear vision of the future state of their organizations. And then leaders were social architects for their organizations. Leaders created trust in their organizations by making their own positions clearly known and then standing by them. And then leaders use creative deployment of self through positive self-regard. So again, according to their book, Transformational Leadership maximizes the human potential within any organization, thereby lowering headcount and cost and increasing return of investment or ROI, and improving retention rates of high-performing employees and leaders. So, what are the pros based on their theory? It has been widely researched since 1970s. It has an intuitive appeal, consistent with society's popular notion of what leadership means. It treats leadership as a process that occurs between followers and leaders. And then it provides a broader view of leadership that augments other leadership models. It places a strong emphasis on followers' needs, values, and morals, and then evidence supports this theory. It does work. Okay? It is an evidence-based theory. However, in the other hand, what are the cons of this theory? It lacks clarity. It is difficult to define parameters, and then difficult to measure. Idealized influence, inspirational motivation, intellectual stimulation, and individualized consideration are all similar and can be hard to make distinct from each other. Transformational leadership can be seen as a personality trait or personal disposition rather than a behavior in which people can be instructed. It is elitist and anti-democratic because it gives the impression that the leader is acting independently of the followers. It has the potential to be abused. It only works in situations that require change. This may not work in an organization that is not open for a transformation. So again, under this theory, these are points to consider. Transformational leadership does not limit itself to a particular style of leadership. The appropriate style would be assessed by the leaders, and the required method apply at particular periods within the process. There is no best or worst leadership style. The organization and nature of the business would determine the best option. Now, Let's go to another theory, Theory 20, or the Leader-Member Exchange, founded by Dan Seru, Grain, and Hagas Leader-Member Exchange Theory. Okay? The follower and then the leader, where they converge in dyadic relationship. So in this illustration, you can see the theory leader-member exchange. Okay, so in a group, there is a leader and the member, and then they converge somewhere in the middle. So what's the use? If you wish to potentially develop a close working relationship with every member of your team and ensure their loyalty to you and you alone, to achieve these leaders, follow a 3-stage process. So, stage 1, the stranger phase. The relationship is defined by the person working to their job description and the leader watching for signs of potential. And then stage 2, the acquaintance phase. If potential is defined, the leader invites the person to take on additional work and responsibilities. The worker's potential is assessed whether he can become a full member of the in-group. And then the stage 3, the mature partnership phase. If the leader is satisfied with the person's performance, they are invited to join the in-group. So, how to use this model? First, all staff should be given the same opportunity to join the in-group. Next, identify what you can offer to staff in return for showing greater commitment and loyalty to you. Third, instead of announcing the benefits that are on offer, demonstrate your actions with individual members. Next, start with the staff who you have identified who has diligence and loyalty, then move outward. Fifth, as staff begin to recognize the benefits of in-group membership, many will want to join. And then lastly, consign everyone the same benefits. Do not exclude someone because you don't like them. Next theory, the Theory 21, or Drucker on why results make leaders. So, effectively, what Drucker declares is that managers are defined by the results they achieve. If you achieve outstanding results, people will review you as a great leader. Okay? The use as the only true measure of your leadership ability. According to Peter Drucker, effective leadership is not about making speeches or being liked. Leadership is defined by the results, not the attributes. Okay, so according to Drucker, leadership is a result-based practice, a result-based leadership style, which is more preferable. Now, how to apply Drucker's theory? First, the title of leader is bestowed on you by your followers. To attract followers, you have to demonstrate achievements. Second, manage expectations. Always under-promise and over-deliver. Never accept an unrealistic deadline. Okay? Third, if the deadline is immovable, identify the 80% of work that you can do in the time available. The less urgent aspects of the work can then be consigned after the deadline. Next, for all targets, use the SMART criteria. Each target should be specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. Okay? That's the abbreviation of SMART. Then lastly, hold regular review meetings with your staff. If there is a negative variance, take corrective action. If there is positive variance, extend it further. Now, let's focus on Warren Bennis on the myth that leaders were born, not made. Okay? There has been a debate for years about what makes a leader. This debate has resulted in two schools of thought. One school proposes that leaders are made from a select few unique of individuals, born with rare set of leadership abilities. Leaders are born, okay, under this school of thought. However, in the other hand, the other school of thought proposes that leaders are made, that we learn, grow, and develop into leaders, okay? This connotes the idea of leaders are made. Warren Bennis spent a significant of time studying leaders and leadership. He also spent time on the faculties of Harvard and Boston University, an author of over 30 books and advisor to 4 United States presidents. After a significant amount of research on leadership, he came to the following conclusion. The most dangerous leadership myth is that leaders are born, that there is a genetic factors to leadership. The myth asserts that people simply either have certain charismatic qualities or not. That's nonsense. In fact, the opposite is true. Leaders are made rather than born. Okay? So, according to Mr. Bennis, leaders are made. Okay? They are honed through experience, through adversity, okay? Through studies, through learning, through experience, okay? They are not born. There is no hereditary advances, okay? Or any hereditary or genes that creates a leader. Bennis further argued that biographies of great leaders sometimes read as if they entered the world with an extraordinary genetic endowment, as if their future leadership role was preordained, okay? It's as if they were anointed to be a leader. But do not believe this. The truth is that major capacities and competencies of leadership can be learned if the basic to learn them exist, okay? So again, Warren Bennis firmly believed that leadership qualities, leadership styles can be learned, okay? It can be learned through adversities, through experience, and as an individual, leaders can grow, okay? It is not a one-way process. It is not stagnant, okay? Leadership is dynamic. So, Warren Bennis believed that great leaders are made, not born. And then, gender plays a very little role in explaining the differences in leadership potential. Some studies show that women are slightly more effective leaders, but this seems to be the result of higher standards being applied when appointing women to leadership position. Okay? So it doesn't matter whether you are male or female, as long as you have these leadership qualities to lead. Leaders come in many shapes and sizes. There are very few characteristics that predict leadership potential. Research has found that people who are adjusted, social, ambitious, and curious are more likely to become leaders. While IQ contributed less than 5% to the likelihood that someone would emerge as a leader, leadership behaviors, like any other human practice, is a combinational factor. And while some people may be born with leadership qualities, research suggests anywhere between 30 to 60% that most leadership behaviors are developed over time. Okay? So these skills, the knowledge are being learned. Okay? At its core, leadership consists of a set of skills and behaviors that can be learned. Okay? Again, the author argues that leadership are learned. So, leaders are made, not born. Now, a final word on leadership theories. Okay? So, qualities of leadership. In any leadership situation, there are two parties, the leader and their followers. The more you know about yourself and your followers, the better you will lead. Okay? The better you are to be a leader. Again, listen and observe, and you'll quickly learn what makes them tick. Okay? Your members or followers. This will help you to both lead and motivate them. Learning about yourself is more difficult. We're experts at hiding our true nature and motives from ourselves. We don't even know what we look like because we have never seen a three-dimensional image of ourselves. So, is it any surprise that we know even less about our personality and how we are perceived by other people? The only way to get an idea of what you are really like is to ask others. Okay? So, it is important as a leader that you have harmonious relationship with your members or your followers or your staff because it is through them that you will learn yourself. Okay? So, unless you understand yourself, you can't know what you believe in or what your principles are. This makes it impossible for you to identify the red lines in the management dust that you will never cross. But if you stand for nothing, you will be willing to stand for anything and to cross any red line when it becomes inconvenient. So this is the last slide on our discussion about leadership and how to lead people. So let me end by reading this quote. A leader is one who knows the way, goes the way, and shows the way. Okay? By John C. Maxwell. Okay? So as you can observe, our discussions are just interrelated. So do not worry if we go back to previous discussion or we refer to this because our discussion are supplemental to other discussions and they are somewhat interrelated, okay? Leadership and management. So for now, that is all about how to lead people. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me for any clarification. So thank you and God bless us all.